To conduct the document review, first check if the document title matches the uploaded file name on the dashboard. In this instance, we do have the same titles as the Good Manufacturing Practices program. Next, both must have the same document code. For this example, we do have 2.4.2. And since this is a template, we indicate the PCQI as the account initials. However, we can customize the code based on the company's initials. For the page number, we use the page X of Y format. Ensure that it reflects the current page position and the total page number of the document. Then insert the company logo here, together with the company name, the company address, then enter the designated department. For the originated by section, it can be the food safety, quality assurance, or the quality control personnel of the company. The originator ensures the implementation of the quality management and document control system. First, enter the name of the originator, affix the signature, input the position title, then the date originated. For the reviewed by section, it can be the personnel assigned in the Quality Management Department who reviews the drafted document or its revision for accuracy and implementation. First, enter the name of the reviewer, affix the signature, input the position title, then enter the date reviewed. For the approved by section, it must be the person in the C-level management who has approval authority. First, enter the name of the reviewer, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date approved. The revision date is the same as the date originated or drafted by the author. For the effective date, it is the date the document was signed and approved. The publication date is when the document is published for distribution and initiated personnel training. The implementation date is when the document is distributed and personnel training is completed. For the supersedes, put original for the initial issuance of the document. For any revisions, reflect the initial revision date before the current revision. Please be reminded that this section must be properly filled out to be compliant. Now we will focus on the components of the program. First is purpose. The purpose is the implementation of any certification standard or compliance with a regulatory requirement. For this program, it is for implementation with the SQF Module 2 Edition 9 for food manufacturing under Clause 2.4.2. First, to implement SQF 2.4.2, the site shall ensure the applicable good manufacturing practices described in Module 11 of this Food Safety Code are applied or exempted according to a written risk analysis outlining the justification for an exemption or evidence of the effectiveness of alternative control measures that ensure food safety is not compromised. Second, to implement SQF 2.4.2, the good manufacturing practices applicable to the scope of certification outlining how food safety is controlled and assured shall be documented and implemented. And third, to comply with 21 CFR 117 Subpart B, the current good manufacturing practice. Second is scope. The scope of the program is based on the purpose and serves as a guide in defining and describing the layout of the procedure. Under scope, we do have good manufacturing practices. Third on our list is policy. The policies are the rules set by the company as their implementation guide. First, a documented good manufacturing practices program is established according to a written risk analysis outlining the justification to ensure food safety is not compromised, with periodic training for all employees. Second, all relevant prerequisite programs applicable to the company, site, and products are documented and effectively implemented. Third, there is a documented site plan showing the location of the premises and the surrounding land use and evidence from the local authority indicating that the premise is approved for the purpose. Fourth, the premises, buildings, and equipment are located, constructed, and designed to facilitate proper processing, handling, storage, and delivery of safe foods. The premises are maintained structurally sound and in a sanitary manner. Fifth, prerequisite programs are documented and implemented as applicable to the scope of certification. Sixth, the SQF practitioner verifies each applied prerequisite program to ensure that it is achieving its intended purpose. Seventh, the SQF practitioner signs off each prerequisite program indicating that the verification has been completed. And eighth, everyone entering the facility, including employees, visitors, and contractors, complies with the GMP requirements. Fourth is procedure. The procedure is the step-by-step process and the actual implementation of the policy. Under procedure is good manufacturing practices, followed by personnel. First under personnel is disease control. Any person who, by medical examination or supervisory observation, is shown to have an illness, open lesion, including boils, sores, or infected wounds, or any other abnormal source of microbial contamination, which there is a reasonable possibility of food contact surfaces, or food packaging materials becoming contaminated, are excluded from any operations until the condition is corrected, unless conditions such as open lesions, boils, and infected wounds are adequately covered. Personnel report such health conditions to their supervisors. Second is cleanliness. All persons working in direct contact with food contact surfaces and food packaging materials conform to hygienic practices while on duty to the extent necessary to protect against allergen cross-contact and contamination of food. Third, wear outer garments suitable to the operation that protects against cross-contact and the contamination of food contact surfaces or food packaging materials. Fourth, maintain adequate personal cleanliness. Fifth, wash hands appropriately or sanitize to protect against contamination with undesirable microorganisms in the hand washing facility before start working, after each absence from the workstation, and at any other time when the hands may have become soiled or contaminated. Sixth, remove all unsecured jewelry and other objects that might fall into equipment, containers, or finished product. Seventh, remove hand jewelry that cannot be adequately sanitized during times when food contact packaging material is manipulated by hand. If such hand jewelry cannot be removed, cover it with a band-aid, by wearing gloves, or material that can be maintained in an intact, clean, and sanitary condition and effectively protects against contamination by these objects of the food contact surfaces and food packaging materials. Number 8. Always keep gloves intact, clean, and in a sanitary condition. 9th, wear hairnets, headbands, cups, beard covers, or other effective hair restraints at all times when handling food contact and packaging materials. 10th, store clothing or other personal belongings in areas where food contact materials are not exposed or equipment or utensils are not washed. 11th, eat food, chew gum, drink beverages, or use tobacco in designated areas other than where food contact materials are exposed or where equipment or utensils are washed. And 12th, take necessary precautions to protect against allergen cross-contact and against contamination of food contact surfaces or food packaging materials with microorganisms or foreign substances including perspiration, hair, cosmetics, tobacco, chemicals, and medicines applied to the skin. Next is plant and grounds. First is grounds. The grounds of the plant under the company's control are kept in a condition that will protect against the contamination of food contact materials. Properly store equipment, remove litter and waste, and cut weeds or grass within the plant's immediate vicinity that constitutes an attractant, breeding place, or harborage for pests. Maintain cleanliness of roads, yards, and parking lots so that they do not constitute a source of contamination in areas where food is exposed. Drain the areas regularly that may contribute to contamination of food contact materials by seepage, foodborne filth, or providing a breeding place for pests. Properly operate waste treatment and disposal so that they do not constitute a source of contamination in areas where food contact materials are exposed. And proper maintenance of plants such as regular inspection, extermination, or other means to exclude pests, dirt, and filth may be a source of food contamination if grounds border the plant grounds, not under the facility's control. Next is plant construction and design. First, the plant is suitable in size, construction, and design to facilitate maintenance and sanitary operations for food contact material production purposes and manufacturing of food contact materials. Second, adequate space for such placement of equipment and storage of materials that are necessary for maintenance, sanitary operations, and the production of safe food contact materials are provided. Third, adequate precautions to reduce the potential for allergen cross-contact and contamination of food contact surfaces and food packaging materials with microorganisms, chemicals, filth, and other extraneous material through food safety controls and operating practices or effective design are taken. Fourth, adequate precautions to protect food contact material in installed outdoor bulk vessels by any effective means are taken when applicable. Fifth, use protective coverings are provided when applicable. Sixth, areas over and around the vessels to eliminate harborages for pests are controlled when applicable. Seventh, a regular check for pests and pest infestation is performed regularly. Eighth, floors, walls, and ceilings are cleaned and kept and in good repair. Ninth, drip from fixtures, ducts, and pipes do not contaminate food contact surfaces and food packaging materials. And 10th, aisles between the equipment and walls are unobstructed. An adequate width of approximately 18 inches is provided to permit employees to perform their duties and protect against contaminating food contact surfaces and food packaging materials with clothing or personal contact. Next, adequate lighting in hand washing areas, dressing and locker rooms, and toilet rooms, and in all areas where food contact materials are examined, manufactured, processed, packed, or held, and where equipment or utensils are cleaned is provided. Shatter-resistant light bulbs, fixtures, skylights, or other glass suspended over exposed food contact materials in any step of preparation or otherwise protect against contamination in case of glass breakage is provided. Adequate ventilation or control equipment to minimize dust, odors, and vapors in areas where they may cause allergen cross-contact or contaminate food contact materials is provided. Seventh, fans and other air-blowing equipment that minimize the potential for allergen cross-contact and contaminate food packaging materials and food contact surfaces are located and operated to prevent cross-contamination. Eighth, adequate screening or other protection against pests is provided in applicable areas. And ninth, sanitary operations. Under sanitary operations, first is general maintenance. Buildings, fixtures, and other physical facilities of the plant are maintained in a clean and sanitary condition and are kept in repair to prevent food contact materials from becoming adulterated. Second, substances used in cleaning and sanitizing and storage of cleaning and sanitizing materials. Third, cleaning compounds and sanitizing agents are free from undesirable microorganisms and safe and adequate under the conditions of use. Compliance with this requirement is verified effectively, including purchasing these substances under a letter of guarantee or certification or examining these substances for contamination. Fourth, toxic cleaning compounds, sanitizing agents, and pesticide chemicals are identified, held, and stored against contamination of food contact surfaces or food packaging materials. Fifth is pest control. Pests are not allowed in any area of the plant. Effective measures are taken to exclude pests from the manufacturing, processing, packing, and holding areas and protect against the contamination of food contact materials on the premises by pests. Using pesticides to control pests in the plant is permitted only under the precautions and restrictions that will protect against the contamination of food contact surfaces and food packaging materials. Sixth is the sanitation of food contact surfaces. All food contact surfaces, including utensils and food contact surfaces of equipment, are cleaned frequently to protect against allergen cross contact and contamination of food contact materials. Seventh, before use, food contact surfaces used for manufacturing or processing, packing, or holding of food packaging materials are in a clean, dry, and sanitary condition. When the surfaces are wet, clean, sanitize it, and thoroughly dry before subsequent use. Eighth is the sanitation of non-food contact surfaces. Non-food contact surfaces of equipment used in the operation of a food plant are cleaned as frequently as necessary to protect against allergen cross-contact and contamination of food contact surfaces and food packaging materials. And ninth is the storage and handling of clean portable equipment and utensils. Cleaned and sanitized portable equipment with food contact surfaces and utensils are stored in a location and manner that protects food contact surfaces from allergen cross-contact and contamination. Next to our list is sanitary facilities and controls. First is water supply. The water supply is adequate for the operations intended and derived from an adequate source. Water is not allowed to contact food packaging materials. Water that contacts food contact surfaces such as equipment is safe and of sanitary quality. Running water is at a suitable temperature and under pressure and is provided. All areas were required to clean equipment, utensils, and employ sanitary facilities. Second, plumbing is of adequate size and designed and installed correctly, thus, carry adequate quantities of water to required locations throughout the plant. Properly convey sewage and liquid disposable waste from the plant. It is not a source of contamination to food, water supplies, equipment, or utensils or creates an unsanitary condition. Adequate floor drainage in all areas where floors are subject to flooding type cleaning or where normal operations release or discharge water or other liquid waste on the floor. And there is no backflow from or cross connection between piping systems that discharge wastewater or sewage and piping systems. Third, sewage is disposed into an adequate sewage system. Fourth, toilet facilities. The plant provides employees with adequate, readily accessible toilet facilities. Toilet facilities are kept clean and not be a potential source of contamination of food contact surfaces and food packaging materials. Fifth is the hand washing facilities. The plant provides hand washing facilities that are adequate and convenient, furnish running water at a suitable temperature, and are designed to ensure that an employee's hands are not a source of contamination of food contact surfaces or food packaging materials. Sixth is rubbish and offal disposal. Rubbish and any offal are conveyed, stored, and disposed of to minimize the development of odor, minimize the potential for the waste becoming an attractant and harborage of breeding place for pests, and protect against contamination of food contact surfaces, food packaging materials, water supplies, and ground surfaces. Next is the equipment and utensils. All plant equipment and utensils used in manufacturing, processing, packing, or holding food contact materials are designed to be adequately cleanable and maintained to protect against allergen cross contact and contamination. Equipment and utensils are designed, constructed, and used appropriately to avoid adulterating food contact materials with lubricants, fuel, metal fragments, contaminated water, or other contaminants. Equipment is installed in adjacent spaces to facilitate the cleaning and maintenance of the equipment. Food contact surfaces are corrosion resistant when in contact with food contact materials. Food contact surfaces are made of non-toxic materials and designed to withstand the environment of their intended use and the action of food contact materials and, if applicable, cleaning compounds, sanitizing agents, and cleaning procedures. Food contact surfaces are maintained to protect food contact materials from allergen cross contact and contamination by any source, including unlawful indirect food additives. Seams on food contact surfaces are smoothly bonded or maintained to minimize the accumulation of particles, dirt, and organic matter, and thus minimize the opportunity for the growth of microorganisms and allergen cross contact. Equipment in areas where food packaging is manufactured, processed, packed, or held, and that does not come into contact with food, is constructed to be kept in a clean and sanitary condition. Hold, convey, and manufacture systems, including gravimetric, pneumatic, closed, and automated systems, are designed and constructed to be maintained in an appropriately clean and sanitary condition. And compressed air or other gases mechanically introduced into food contact materials or used to clean food contact surfaces or equipment are treated so that food contact materials are not contaminated with unlawful indirect food additives. Next is processes and controls. First, all operations in the manufacturing, processing, packing, and holding of food packaging, including operations directed to receiving, inspecting, transporting, and segregating, are conducted following adequate sanitation principles. Second, appropriate quality control operations are employed to ensure that food packaging material is suitable for its intended use and that food packaging materials are safe and suitable. Third, overall sanitation of the plant is under the supervision of one or more competent individuals assigned responsibility for this function. Fourth, adequate precautions are taken to ensure that production procedures do not contribute to allergen cross-contact and contamination from any source. Fifth, chemical, microbial, or extraneous material testing procedures are used where necessary to identify sanitation failures or possible allergen cross-contact and food contamination. And sixth, all food packaging materials that has become contaminated to the extent that it is adulterated is rejected. Next is the raw materials and other ingredients. First, raw materials used for food contact packaging are inspected and segregated or otherwise handled as necessary to ascertain that they are clean and suitable for processing and are stored under conditions that will protect against allergen cross-contact and contamination and minimize deterioration. And second, raw materials used for food contact packaging do not contain levels of microorganisms that render the food packaging material injurious to the health of humans. Next to raw materials and other ingredients is the manufacturing operations. First, Equipment and utensils and food contact material containers are maintained in an adequate condition through appropriate cleaning and sanitizing as necessary. Insofar as necessary, equipment is taken apart for thorough cleaning. Second, all food packaging material manufacturing, processing, packing, and holding are conducted under such conditions and controls as are necessary to minimize the potential for the growth of microorganisms, allergen cross contact, contamination, and deterioration. Third, effective measures protect finished food packaging materials from allergen cross contact and contamination or refuse. Fourth, food contact materials transported by the conveyor are protected against allergen cross contact and contamination as necessary. And fifth, equipment containers and utensils used to convey, hold, or store food contact materials are constructed, handled, and maintained during manufacturing, processing, packaging, and holding, protecting against allergen cross contact and contamination. And lastly, under procedure is the warehousing and distribution. Storage and transportation of food packaging materials are under conditions that are protected against allergen cross contact and biological, chemical, and physical contamination of food packaging materials, as well as against deterioration of the container. Then the fifth component of the program is responsibility. The responsibility of the person is indicated. It covers what to perform to comply with the procedure or the policy. First is for the senior management. The senior management ensures the proper documentation and effective implementation of all relevant prerequisite programs. We also have here the SQF practitioner. The SQF practitioner verifies each prerequisite program and signs off each prerequisite program to indicate verification has been completed. Then sixth is corrective action. The corrective action is the process of taking appropriate steps to eliminate causes of nonconformities or other undesirable situations. The corrective action is to review and revalidate the documented and implemented PRP if the PRPs, including alternative controls, do not achieve the desired result. Then seventh, we have review quality. The review section serves as guidelines for conducting the annual or periodic review. Annual review of compliance to good manufacturing practices requirements by observing the following. 1. The company has documented and implemented the correct PRP modules. 2. Procedures and or work instructions are in place to cover all applicable PRPs in the relevant PRP modules. 3. Applicable PRPs are effectively implemented. Fourth, exempted PRPs are documented. Fifth, the effectiveness of PRPs, including alternative controls, where applicable, has been verified to ensure that they achieve the desired result. Sixth, records of PRP validations are available. Seventh, the property, buildings, and equipment meet the PRP requirements, are cleaned, and achieve hygienic production. And eighth, personal practices and processing techniques meet the PRP requirements and the documented procedures. The eighth component of the program is the reference document. The reference documents are the set of documents used to implement and monitor a program, policy, or procedure. First on the list is the cleaning and sanitation program, followed by the microbiological testing program schedule. Then we have here equipment, utensils, and protective clothing program. We also have the swab testing procedure and the plants and grounds pest controls. Ninth, we have references. The reference section is composed of guides utilized to implement the program. Examples are the certification guide, regulations, and other widely accepted scientific journals, research, and the like. It must comply with the standard format citation, which can be based on either MLA, the APA, or the Chicago style, and update the access date. Lastly is history. The history section is where we can update the program if there are any changes or revisions made in the document. If there is a revision, enter the revision number, followed by the revision date, the description of the change made, then the name of the author or the originator, and lastly is the title or the department of the author or the originator. Thank you for participating in this document review. Content presented are for training purposes only and are based on the interpretation of standards and best practices and must be customized for your intended use. To fully customize your programs, policies, procedures, forms for records, and lessons for training, you may contact Interlink IQ or Consultier Inc. at services@interlinkiq.com or simply call 202 982 3002. For free access, visit interlinkiq.com.